Once upon a time, a secret amongst the surf community, Mandalika is now known the world over for its stunning international race circuit. And for the first time, international GT3 racing graces its shores. Welcome along to the second round of the GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. It's qualifying day. We've had 2 days of testing here at the Mandalika International Circuit. 2 days interrupted by heavy rainstorms, and for our 34 capacity grid, it's a little bit of a voyage into the unknown because the grip has changed dramatically across the 3 days, and we are basically back to square one after massive rain overnight and indeed yesterday in pre-qualifying. We are experiencing blue sky, dry conditions, but how dry is the circuit? Who knows? The amateur drivers will be first out onto the circuit in qualifying one, as it's part of the course in GT World Challenge. So 15 minutes qualifying one to establish grid for race one, and then 15 minutes qualifying for race two. And that's where we will see our pro drivers, if you are like Anthony Liu and Dorian Boccolacci, in a Pro-Am lineup. There is the car that took victory in race two, a celebrated, famous, headline-grabbing victory in Sepang last time out. Unfortunately though, a new driver lineup in that 99 car with Alexander Sims over in America this weekend. It's Ben Green who replaces him alongside Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. And so Ben getting up to speed with the Corvette GT3 car for the first time. Lots and lots of desperation to get out onto circuit as quickly as possible. They don't know what conditions are like out there on track. Are they on the slick tyre? Are they on the wet tyre? Is it too dry for wets? I think it would be, but it's certainly not a completely dry circuit. And so for these mainly amateur drivers, a real challenge after 2 days of practice. That is the dry Pirelli P0. And I think that would be the correct way to go. Daniel Liu sharing that car with Li Shangyu. The Absolute Racing Run 321. There is the only Nissan in the field. Goji Zen with Motoki and Kanemaru. Already with victories in that Nismo GTR to their name. Suzuka in 2024, where Kanemaru was partnered at that point with a different driver. Motoki, graduating from the Bingo Racing Corvette in the Japan Cup last year, moving in to Goji Zen and the Nissan. So with very little experience in that car. Brian Lee, Chinese Taipei driver in the number 10, shares that car with Nico Menzel this year. They got a couple of points in the first of our races in Sepang. And now cars head out onto circuit. It is the 99, our championship leader, that is able to lead the field away, and they will be the pathfinder. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim's brother, also racing in the series this year, Prince Abubakar, but they retired out of both of the races in Sepang. And so now an opportunity to take a look at the circuit. It is a fast and flowing circuit. It's very, very flat as well. And of course, being a motorcycle circuit, the curbs are very flat also. So for a reference for these drivers, very hard to pick out exactly where the apexes are. This is one of the better opportunities in the circuit, down at the far end, turn 10. There's a slightly better view of the patchy, damp conditions that we have offline, and presumably also in some of the curbs. Huge rainfall yesterday and overnight. Big flooding around the circuit perimeters. Not unusual here in Indonesia to have such tropical storms. And our whole timetable actually has been moved forward 1 hour from the original plan, so that we hopefully avoid the worst of the storms today, although the forecast is being slightly more kind than yesterday. My tip for qualifying 1 here, Bob Yuan in the 87 Porsche, our champions from last year, choosing not to run the number 1 and moving from Silver Am up into Pro-Am this year. Bob Yuan staying as an Am driver classification, but incredibly fast. And with the circuit not getting much running this morning, do expect times to continue to tumble throughout this session. Very interesting tarmac here in Mandalika. It's actually quite grippy, even in wet conditions. Quite porous, allows the water to drain through it very easily. That creates a grippy surface both in the wet and in the dry, and means that some of these sweeping corners are very easily flat out in our GT3 machinery. Adley Fung looking on as one of our favourites, really, for qualifying. In qualifying 1 is his teammate Chen Kong-fu, Frankie Cheng, in the 45 Audi, and an all-silver lineup. So with the less experienced drivers qualifying in qualifying 1, we have the likelihood of silver drivers, those with silver backgrounds on our graphic on our left-hand side, or the number, to take the pole position. That is kind of how we expect it to run. And then, of course, when we go into the Pro-Am, the Pro section of qualifying 2, we'll have the Pro drivers in the cars, and therefore the silvers are the least, or the less experienced of our competitors on circuit. Porsche's been very, very strong around here so far in our practice and test sessions. 2 days worth, as Bob Wan runs a little bit wide there. Difficult to see whether he was over, 4 wheels over the white line. There are automatic cameras down at that part of the circuit which will detect whether the car is 4 wheels off. This area here is another place where it's quite easy to run a little bit wide. As I say, the curb's incredibly flat, and so it doesn't really do the cars any harm to run wide. Looks like Bob Wan knows he made a mistake there. He's slightly backed out of it to give himself a bit more space in front. Bao Yinglong at the moment is our fastest driver in the number 46 Audi, run by Phantom Global Racing. Shares that car with Marcus Winkelhock. The plan is for the full season to be that pairing. But now the times begin to come in from the second proper attempts. And it is Shang Yikwai who is, at the moment, 2.5 tenths faster than anybody else. We have to take all these times a little bit with a pinch of salt, because we don't know how many cars have had their track times deleted. In fact, Bob Yuan does have his time deleted, and so, as does the 33. Can't get too excited about the lap times when they first come in because they need to be verified. Number 30 gets their lap time deleted as well. Taking a look at the win here, Harmony Racing of David Chen. Chen bringing that Ferrari into the pits, presumably for a tyre pressure adjustment on that car, deciding that, oh, we've got a red flag out on circuit actually. So that was well timed by the win here, Ferrari. What car have we got stationary? We do have a car stationary after turn 12, and it's car 61 that is stationary. So that is the Adrian De Silva and Chris van der Drift Porsche run by Earl Bamber Motorsport. Dylan Pereira was in that car in Sepang, but Chris van der Drift will be the pro in that car. Great to have Chris back. Last time we saw van der Drift in this championship was all the way back in 2019, where he took a second place in Korea. That's his best result at GT World Challenge, but the car has become stationary. Now, gravel traps are absolutely mammoth around the circuit, so if you do go off the circuit, it is quite a long way, and the gravel traps are also deep because it's a motorbike circuit, to get yourself to a barrier. So fingers crossed, no shots yet of the Porsche, but fingers crossed he hasn't made any contact with any tyre barrier or wall, and they can get back going again. But great opportunity to reset for all of these teams. Some teams obviously taking the risk to come into the pits and have their pressures adjusted, but now everybody can do the same thing. So, red flag then. And the fastest time of the session was indeed Frankie Chen Kong Fu, with a 1:30.075. And actually, that time was nearly a second faster than anybody else. So that was a very, very strong lap by Frankie Chen. Remember, no one has ever been to this Mandalika circuit. It is a brand new venue for international GT3 racing. They have had some local championship races here, and there is a local championship run out of this circuit that has about a 4 or 5 round series. But international motorsport is limited very much to bikes, to Superbike Championship and to MotoGP, which the circuit was designed for. Supposed to break ground in 2018. It was delayed until 2019, then we all know what happened after that. And it was a rather turbulent build process across COVID on a small remote island, trying to get things and people and personnel over to the island to build. Eventually finished and able to run the end of season World Superbike race in 2021. And then pre-season testing in 2022, and their first MotoGP race. But for four-wheel cars, we were supposed to come here back in 2022, GT World Challenge, but COVID interrupted that. And so it's great to finally, after 2 years on the calendar, to finally have our GT3 cars here in Mandalika. No sign yet. Oh, now the Porsche is coming back to the circuit, coming back to the pit lane. So just about to enter pit lane. Presumably has been pulled out of the gravel. And now Adrian De Silva, making his way down pit lane underneath my commentary box. The car looks very nice and clean, so no problem at all with that car, but it will take no further part in this session. It will be allowed, I think, to take part in the second of our qualifying sessions with Chris van der Drift, but with it being helped in this first of our sessions, outside assistance means that it will play no further part. Right, so the track is now clear of that stranded car, and a right rush to get back out on the circuit. Green flag at the end of pit lane, although, yeah, there we go. We are back to green flag conditions, and everybody rushing back out to try and chase down that 130.075. They've all been able to tweak their tyre pressures. A really good opportunity to come into the pits with tyres up to pressure, up to temperature, and then you measure the pressure of that tyre to make sure that it is in a working window. Something that you don't usually get the luxury to do in qualifying, because you want to be out on circuit and you want to be setting lap times. But with that little interruption, we can go back out, and with cars more adjusted to the track conditions that we have right now. And it is dry enough for them all to be on the slick tyre. Both of our SRO Motorsport Corvettes leading the field around. Much like in Sepang, they've chosen garage number 1, so they are first out onto circuit. So capacity 33 full entries plus a race-by-race entry means we have an equal best ever grid of cars for our first visit to the tropical paradise that is Mandalika. I haven't actually had much chance to talk about the names that's brought out this weekend, because there are a few very, very special drivers that we will see coming up in the pro part of our qualifying. Of course, we saw Marcus Winkelhock here in Sepang as part of our full season grid. Ex-F1 driver of one single race. Ex-Formula 1 race leader. In fact, a man that has started, the only man ever to start on pole position and at the back of the grid in the same race, and the only race he ever did in Formula 1. But we also have Giancarlo Fisichella this weekend in the number 60 Ferrari. We'll talk a little bit more about those celebrity names, European names, when we get to our pro qualifying session. For the moment, we can focus on the AMs and, of course, on our silver category cars. 4 silver category entries this weekend, 16 pro-ams, 10 of our silver AM category, which is a real popular category, only recently added to the GT World Challenge Asia calendar, and then 4 amateur lineups. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim in the number 99, over the line now to start another attempt. He's got Kieron Lee in the 86 just behind him. The Chinese driver that has raced so much in America that he's taken American nationality. Usually see him in a Lamborghini, but Kieron now for our 2025 season as part of the Origin Porsche family. And watching out once more, searching for the number 45 of Kung Fu Cheng. Got a little bit of traffic, there he is. I think that's the 45 rather than the 46 that's gone through shock. And if that was Kung Fu Cheng, oh no, this is Kung Fu Cheng, so he's on his own. And that's good news. That means purple sector for 1, and for the second sector. He's in the final sector of the lap. Another of our overtaking opportunities. The slowest corner on the lap is the penultimate one. Somebody has gone faster than him in the first sector of the lap. It's actually Ben Porter who has gone fastest in the first sector of the lap. Kung Fu Cheng takes provisional fastest lap time by another second, so he's gone into the 29s now. As Andrea Antra comes over the line for 9th position in the brand new Absolute Corsa Lamborghini. Car we didn't have in Sepang. It was ordered, but it just didn't arrive in time. And great to have that car now with us. Laura Spinelli was named as the expert Lamborghini driver in that car for the first round. Of course, the car never turned up, and now Eduardo Multara is the pro in that car, the Formula E driver for Mahindra, and let's not forget also Lamborghini Works driver. Purple sectors for Ben Porter in the first sector, put him up to 9th position in his number 51 Porsche. That's where he qualified, if I remember, in Sepang. Now in Sepang he didn't have a teammate because Andrew McPherson was ill in the lead up to the event, so had to withdraw, and Ben ended up running on his own. Does have Andrew back with him this weekend, so great to have Andrew back, and he will celebrate his 60th race start in race 2 of our weekend here, as Ben did in race 2 in Sepang. Right, 2.5 minutes remaining, times continuing to tumble. Anthony Liu up to 2nd position now, 3.5 tenths behind Chen Kong Fu. Then it's the second of our silvers, David Chen, or Chen Wei An. 3rd position in that, or in his Harmony Racing Ferrari, because David Chen is the director and founder of Harmony Racing. And then it continues to change, because we've got Daniel Frost now in the number 77 Mercedes up to 2nd position, and within 1/10 of a second of Chen Kong Fu. We check back in with the Audi, the oldest of our GT3 manufacturers now. Oh, and there's that spin. Yes, it is a big spin for Kung Fu Cheng. Very, very unusual. It was just behind the graphics. I didn't see exactly what happened there, but maybe shows that if you do get offline, there isn't a huge amount of grip out there. So he throws away an opportunity to defend that position, and how much damage has that done to his set of tyres as well. As Daniel Frost in the Mercedes for Craft Bamboo goes up into, it goes fastest in the first section of the lap, and we've got another Audi off, one corner before where Frankie went off. There's the 46, how very unusual. Teammate to the 45, one corner earlier, and Bao Yinglong has put his Audi R8 into the gravel trap and caused another red flag, and with only a minute remaining, I fear that will be the end of the session and no opportunities to improve. Daniel Frost was on a really good lap too, sharing that car with Liang Chaitong, who will qualify in the 2nd session. The Indy Lights and competitor. Did almost all of his racing over in America, Daniel Frost, until he had to stop for military service. And this is sort of the reincarnation of his career with Craft Bamboo in GT3. And looks really strong in practice, and has backed that up in qualifying. Less than 1/10 off Chen Kong Fu. It is a silver 1-2 at the head of our field. You have to give good credit to the number 29 of Huang Ruhan, who has got himself up into 5th position on the grid. So that a very, very good qualifying session for the number 29 Lamborghini Absolute Corsa. Where are our Corvettes? Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, 15th position. And the second car, Prince Abu Bakr, who we're seeing there, down in 24th position. Now, we are still deleting a couple of cars, track limit infringements through turns 7, 8 and 9. Not an area that we see from our camera positions as particularly challenging, because it kind of looks very straight and flat from the way that we have our cameras seeing that part of the circuit. But clearly much more of a challenge than, well, even it looks from the outside when we did our tour of the circuit yesterday. Lots of cars taking a trip 4 wheels off the circuit at that part and having their lap times deleted. There is our pole man, though. The number 45 has done it once again. Favourite for pole position in every single one of our Q1s, because it's such a strong lineup of Adli Fong and Kung Fu Cheng. Sorry, it's not Adli Fong, is it, that's alongside Kung Fu Cheng? It's James Yu Kwai. So used to the two of them being teammates last year. And we're going to see James, as we did in Sepang, up against the pro drivers in qualifying too. So those first set of tyres need to come off that car. Big lock-up when he had that half spin. And they will not be particularly circular any longer. So in the end, when it looked as though Daniel Frost might steal pole position from Phantom Global Racing, it was the teammate of Chen Kung Fu, Bao Yinglong, who has caused the red flag and has stopped any advances from anybody else, and meant that Chen Kung Fu gets the pole position. Daniel Frost will line up alongside him, and then Anthony Liu and Cheng Wei-an on row 2. Porsche and Ferrari. So that is Audi, Mercedes, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. 5 different brands in the top 5. I love how competitive this series is. Championship leaders, Bob Yuan in the 87, 6th position in qualifying. Another stellar performance for Bob. 3rd amateur driver behind Anthony Liu and Huang Wuhan. Just ahead of Mike Zhou. But only 7 cars separated by a second shows that the circuit was really developing all the way through that session, as were our drivers finding the limits. It proves that there is a right challenge out there. It might look relatively simple, it might look relatively flat out, but there's certainly big challenges, and the whole field actually separated by nearly 5 seconds. Alex Liu down in 33rd position in the number 30 machine, the last of our competitors, and actually doesn't look like he got a very representative lap time in, because he's a good 1.5 seconds back from his nearest competitor. Adrian De Silva will start race 1 last after spinning, but we should see Chris van der Drift out in that car in the 2nd session of qualifying, which is coming up in a few seconds' time. And now we can get really excited about some of the international names that have chosen to come to Mandalika as their first experience of GT World Challenge. Giancarlo Fisichella, welcome along. 3 Formula 1 victories to his name. He's also an Italian GT3 champion, has raced in GT3 cars ever since he stopped racing in Formula 1 back in 2009. And we welcome Giancarlo into the number 60 LM Corsa Ferrari alongside Shikatsu Wakazaka. Right, let's go down to Emily and welcome her to the broadcast. And she's got Kung Fu Cheng with her.
So now we have Frankie Chen Kung Fu, the pole position for race 1. Frankie, it seemed like a very tricky condition out there. First of all, congratulations on your pole, but could you talk us through about the laps?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much. And the condition is really tricky, and obviously with still some places, and because also we set up the car, we set up the car yesterday for today. It's mainly for the full dry conditions, and it's even expecting a bit higher level grip levels. And but in the end, you know, with this washout, and it's actually the track grip is pretty low, and it's very challenging. And as you can see in the qualify, we got 2 red flags, and but it's same for everyone. And I'm very happy for the team. We get these pole positions, and yes, looking forward to the afternoon race.
Yeah, this afternoon, maybe the course might be a little bit more dry. Would that help you and the team?
Well, you know, in the end, we cannot decide the weather, and we just, you know, be focused and see what we get. We do our best.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So those two, Phantom Global Racing then, going for a full dry setup. So here we have the fastest drivers in our different categories. So fastest AM, William Ben Porter. Fastest Pro-Am was Anthony Liu, and fastest silver being Chen Kung Fu, and the pole position, of course. And then silver Am to Huang Ruhan in the 29. And therefore, Chen Kung Fu takes the pole position just under a 10th ahead of Craft Bamboo and Daniel Frost. Then it's Phantom Global Racing's Anthony Liu. Winnie Harmony in 4th position, very, very strong. Looking forward to seeing what they can do in the race. And then Absolute Corsa Lamborghini, Bob Ruan, our championship leader, in 6th. Mike Joe, 7th. And the second of the Lamborghinis up in 8th position. So Absolute have gone absolutely on top of their Lamborghini to get them in 5th and 8th position. Rolling down the order, the best of the AM competitors. Ben Porter, 16th in the end. And trying to pick out a few surprises down there. BMW's only 20th and 21st. We saw them much higher in qualifying, but I do think they had a few track limit infringements that have put them down there 2 seconds off the pace. And then, of course, the Corvettes as well. Also further down the field than they would like. Right, pro drivers out on circuit. Let's find out who is the strongest of our pros. Ralph Aron took the pole position in that number 2 Climax Mercedes in Sepang. Always very, very strong at any race circuit you go to, the Mercedes GT3. Just seeing that Bob Wans had a lap time deleted from that previous session as well. So maybe still changes to that grid order even at the end of this session. First car over the line then, Ben Green from the UK. A lot of GT3 experience, both in the British Championship and also in Europe. Was 3rd in the Sprint Championship last year in Europe with a win at Hockenheim. But I reckon this is the first time he's driven a Corvette GT3 car. It's the newest of our GT3s. As there is the LM Corsa Pro-Am car of Giancarlo Fisichella. Didn't see very much of that number 60 in Sepang. It was an AM competitor car there, but as we lead up to the Suzuka 1,000 kilometers, a rebirth of that very famous race, Fisichella is in that LM Corsa car for that race, and has chosen Mandalika to get more up to speed with the team. He knows the car very well, of course. He's the same that he has driven in the Italian Championship, and he'll be able to bring all that experience as well. Tell you what, it looks a bit twitchy though on this opening lap, asking a lot of 296. course, the GT3 cars all have traction control, or they all have ABS brakes, but actually they are fastest when most of that is turned to as low as possible. So that's what the pro drivers end up doing. And they try and get their amateur drivers to do as much of that as possible as well. Turn all the assists down, the cars are at their fastest. Ben Green then. Oh, horrible little twitch there into turn 3. Really struggling with the grip levels this morning. It's obviously back to a very green circuit, and if you are expecting a dry race and you want your car in completely dry setup, then you're going to have to sacrifice yourself a little bit in this qualifying session. Fisichella is the fastest driver out on circuit with a 29.47, so already onto the pace of what we saw in qualifying 1. But very oversteery Corvette under Ben Green here. Turns in, and every single time he asks something of the front end, it responds, but the rear does not. He's getting horrible little twitches. So it is not going to be a particularly strong lap, and he's got some horrible traffic as well at the end of the lap as well. Dorian Boccolacci just about to start his lap. Absolute star is Boccolacci in that number 37 Origin run. Phantom Global Racing run Porsche. It was an absolute Porsche last year. That colour scheme also adorned, of course, the Craft Bamboo Mercedes the year before. Here's Lorenzo Petresi. Purple sectors in both sectors 1 and 2. Second of the win here, Harmony Racing Ferraris. We didn't see very much of Petresi in Sepang. Comes over the line, and the timer should have stopped, shouldn't it? Because we are at turn 1 now, so where did Petresi go up to? Yes, he was fastest. So it was 0.6 faster than Akish Nandi. Unless that was instantly deleted, no. So Petresi from Eduardo Mortara, that is our top 2 right now, as we now look at Dorian Boccolacci. Boccolacci over the line. And where's Boccolacci gone into? 3rd position. Just behind Maxim Hussein, so the BMW 89 is very strong. Didn't see much in qualifying 1. It is Petresi from Hussein from Boccolacci. And then Mortara in 4th, Eduardo Mortara. Showing that that Lamborghini is strong in the hands of the Pro as well as the AM. And then what a performance at the moment from Deng Yi. Andy Deng up in 5th position here in a qualifying session absolutely rammed full of the best GT3 talent that there is. Over the line, Jade Majeda. Wow, great lap from the Craft Bamboo. 0.6 better than Lorenzo Petresi. There is chunks of time to be found there out on circuit. Picarello goes over the line up into 2nd position. 0.4 back from Jade Najeda. Well, I have to say, a bit of a dark horse, that Craft Bamboo Mercedes in Sepang. Race 1, only 19th. Race 2, sort of suddenly appeared on the podium at the end of the race. With Cao Chi finishing the race for the number 31. And at the moment, still half the session remaining, but it is Ojeda that leads. Here's a look at Eduardo Mortara, Swiss-Italian racer in Formula E, pretty much since its inception now, with Mahindra at the moment, but also racing for Lamborghini as a works driver, in theory, in the WEC, but Lamborghini pulling that hypercar project, therefore leaving them with a couple of pro drivers that they needed to distribute around the world, and that's exactly what happens. Absolute say, we'd like to run a Lamborghini, we've got a customer, do you have a professional driver you can provide us? And presumably Mortara, who was racing in Monaco last weekend in a Formula E car, next weekend will be in Tokyo, able to fill the weekend off with a quick trip to Lombok. He goes into the pits then. So a tyre pressure change, I imagine. Ojeda, Boccolacci, Piccarello, Kanemaru in the 500. We're on board with him now, up into 4th position, 28.5. Let's have a look at what it looks like on board. Yeah, so Kanemaru backing out of that lap. I think didn't see what the issues were, but he decided against that one and is going to get himself wound back up for another attempt. Kanemaru, say, with victory in Suzuka last year, runs an online golf clothing company. And a very long time ago was on the podium in World Series by Renault as he was growing up through the ranks, the silver driver. Now here's a look at the number 89 of KRC. Got a few Dutch drivers in our entry list, 3 drivers from the Netherlands this weekend. Maxime Hussein was with us last time out in Sepang and got himself on the podium in race 1. Took victory in Silver Am in both of our races, alongside Juan Kukvan. Once again, Hussein best of the Silver Ams, although that time now deleted, and he drops down to 9th position. Got to be careful. Lots of track limit infringements out on circuit. Liang Jiatong in the Craft Bamboo Mercedes. Another of our silver lineups. Daniel Frost qualifying in Q1. So Liang Jiatong has the difficult task up against the big pros. Stays down in 17th for the moment. We are in that sort of slight holding pattern now, where those that have come into the pits are getting themselves wound back up for another attempt with 3 minutes remaining. Deng Yi in that 96 silver Ferrari. Well qualified by team boss David Chen in Q1. 9th position at the moment. And best of the silvers in this second section of qualifying. That's what will really matter. These teams always looking at their class competitors rather than the overall. As we now go on board with the 98. Welcome along Thierry Vermeulen in the European Series last weekend in an Aston Martin sponsored by Max Verstappen on the podium, and now in a Ferrari for Absolute Corsa, sharing this car. It's a race-by-race entry for Anderson Tonotto, who was sharing the car with Jean-Baptiste Simonauer in Sepang. Thierry Vermeulen was very, very fast in our practice sessions over the last couple of days. Goes up to third fastest, although has that lap time been deleted? Yes, it has, so he dropped down to fourth, but still a strong qualifying session when you consider we've got Giancarlo Fisichella in the field, we've got Chris van der Drift in the field, we've got Marcus Winkelhock, only 22nd Winkelhock in the Audi. So I don't think Winkelhock's really got himself a lap time. Oh, and having to jump onto the anchors there pretty aggressively was Harry King. Also a welcome along to him, rookie in GT World Challenge Asia, the runner-up in Porsche Super Cup last year. Taking over from Patrick Pilet in that 911 for this weekend. So much global GT3 racing, you can't be in two places at once. It's actually a third round of the NLS this weekend. Qualifying race for the Nürburgring 24 Hours, which is part of the Intercontinental GT Series again. Joined last year, and that is very much four wheels off for Patrese going out of the final corner. Still holds on to second position though, even if that lap time does get deleted. Also depends if it's being monitored at that part of the circuit. Obviously we saw him four wheels off, but if race control aren't monitoring that particular corner, then he may get away with running wide there. It's automatic monitoring through turns 7, 8 and 9. And then this part of the circuit here where Ralph Aron goes wide and off the track is also monitored by human eye. That's what race control have told the drivers in drivers briefing. And checker flag is out then. So the end of the session. Is there any purple sectors out there on circuit? Ralph Aron comes over the line, improves up to 8th position, but I think that will be taken away from him, because in that final sector definitely we saw him running wide. And I think that could well be it. Few cars pushing on, but no green or purple sectors out there. And a big improvement from the number 44 of Ling Kang. But that gets then taken away from him, and he drops all the way back down to 20th position, because it was a good up to top 5, I think. Max Usend also gets a lap time deleted. There's more cars going down on our timing tower than they are going up. But we are, by the looks of things, without any more improvements, we might lose some lap times, but there doesn't look to be any more improvements, and it does mean that that time from Jaden Ajeda, a 1:28.145, is good enough for a pole position for Mercedes and Craft Bamboo. James Yu Kwai heading back to his Phantom Global Racing garage. And I feel as though both of those qualifying sessions are a pretty mixed up grid. It ran a bit more to form in that second qualifying session in that we didn't have any red flags, but so many track limit infringements, deleting track limits. When it comes to the racing, it's I feel as though it's going to be pretty mixed up, and racing's going to be difficult here. So fast, so many sweeping turns. There is really only one line, so big overtaking opportunity down into turn 10, far end of the circuit. That's the corner closest to the beach, which weirdly, when you're down there, you have no concept of the fact that if you just jump backwards, you'll be in the sea. But we are right on the southerly tip of this Lombok island, near the town of Kuta. And it's a stunning place to go racing. A few more cars to get back into pit lane, but that is basically qualifying done. As I say, I feel as though that's a pretty mixed up field. The Chevrolet Corvettes did better. Ben Green, 9th. Jordan Love, 10th position. So that's more encouraging for JMR. Giancarlo Fisichella ended up down in 16th position after that early good pace in the LM course. He only actually improved half a second from that very first lap. And there is Jaden Ojeda walking back to his pit garage. We'll get a word with him in a few moments' time, no doubt. The Australian racing in GT World Challenge Australia as well as in Asia, and also making an appearance for Walkinshaw Racing in the Enduros of the Supercar in National Australian Championship, that have both sprint races and endurance races where they require 2 drivers. It's only Jaden's 3rd weekend in GT World Challenge Asia. We did see him last year. As I say, they took a podium in the 2nd race, but it was a bit of a surprise podium. We didn't expect, they sort of came out of nowhere because of that late race contact with Climax Racing, where Mike Joe ended up being spun around from the lead of the race. And lots of positions changed right at the end. And suddenly there was Craft Bamboo. So it is the Pro-Am combination of Jaden Ojeda and Cao Chi, fastest in qualifying 2. Fastest of the silvers, the 96 of Andy Deng. And Win Here Harmony making a clean sweep with Lorenzo Petresi in Silver Am, taking pole position for them. And 2nd overall. So a front row start for Petresi in Sunday's 2nd race. Really, really, really good qualifying for Team Gojizen. 3rd position for the Nissan, alongside another good qualifying for Phantom Global Racing's 37, Boccolacci on row 2, as was Anthony Liu in race 1. So look out for them to score good points. Vermeulen 5th, Picarello 6th, Fisichella down in 16th, Chris van der Drift 18th position, Akish Nandi down in 22nd. So the Lamborghini's struggling a bit more in that 2nd session of qualifying than they did in the 1st. And let's go down then back to Emily, who's got Jaden Ojeda, and we can hear from them now.
Pole position for race 2. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
A great lap from you, and it looks like the car looked really well balanced. Could you just talk us through your performance?
Yeah, the Craft Bamboo racing team did an awesome job setting our Mercedes AMG up, and it was like a magic carpet for me for the first lap of qualifying. We couldn't have asked for much more, got the most out of the tyre, everything, and so really, really happy.
It's the first time for everyone to race here in Mandalika. Your thoughts of the course?
Yeah, really cool. Awesome location for a racetrack. It's beautiful, nice holiday destination as well, so definitely a place to come visit even when you're not racing. So really fun track, really enjoying the laps of Mandalika.
So good luck tomorrow. Let's make it a good race.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
It is a pretty cool place to come racing, and as an Australian, I'm sure Jaden Ojeda's been out on a surfboard at some point. This whole area, very much surfer country. Say the beach just opposite turn 10, a famous yet secret surf spot, and as you drive into the town of Kuta, a big statue to the surfers that hung out here before the racetrack became the central focus. Qualifying then in Mandalika, and the pros out in Q2 on a circuit that had a little bit of grip from Q1, but after overnight rain was very, very green, and those pushing early on finding themselves perhaps slightly over the limit. A lot of track limit discrepancies. It was Giancarlo Fisichella in the number 60, the F1 winner, who set the early pace, and it was a very strong early pace that really he didn't improve much on throughout the 15-minute session, which drops him down through the field. Another Italian in a Ferrari was also very, very strong. Lorenzo Patrese setting this lap time to go himself up to the top of the standings. A strong run for Porsche all the way through the practice days. Dorian Boccolacci, fresh from winning NLS at the Nürburgring on his first attempt, managing to end up on row 2 after Anthony Liu's row 2 performance in qualifying 1. But it was Jaden Ajeda, kind of out of nowhere in the Craft Bamboo Mercedes, who really had a very strong car underneath him. Nice and neat through the slower part, and he got himself up to the top of the standings. Lots of attempts all the way across the field, some good enough to get pole position, but then taken away because they'd driven over the white line, 4 wheels off, meant track limit infringements everywhere, and left Jaden Ajeda on the pole position. A late attempt from Lorenzo Patrese to try and overshadow him was not possible. In Q1, Kung Fu Cheng on the pole position, and Jaden Ajeda on pole position for race 2.